Our next unit that we're going to be dealing with is inverses, inverse functions, and all of their glory. So for starters, we're just going to kind of do an intro into inverses, how they interact, how they behave, ins and outs, little things that are helpful to know as we move forward. We're not going to dive incredibly deep, but just enough to help us survive, right? Cool. All right. So first thing that we want to talk about is the fact or what an inverse is. An inverse is something that undoes a function. Let's just say it that way. An inverse function is going to undo or reverse another function. We've seen inverse operations before. Inverse operations undo each other, like adding and subtracting. They cancel each other out. Multiplying and dividing. Square roots and squaring. Those are inverses of each other because they cancel each other out. So we're going to be using those to kind of cancel functions out, to start at the end and go back to the beginning. How do we do that? How does it work? So first thing that I want to kind of refresh is what is a function? Definition of a function, because we need to know if we have an inverse function and a function. So a function is something that assigns a y value to a given x value. So, in other words, so again, as that says, something that assigns a y value to a given x value. If we take x and I plug it into a function, it's going to spit out a y value. It's assigning that y value to that given x, right? If you remember back in the day, to test if something was a function, you did a vertical line test. So with that vertical line test, you could test to see if a function or if a graph was a function given the graph. So for example, we could look at this graph. So if we did this graph, is this a function? We come in with those vertical lines and we want to make sure that we're only hitting the graph at one point. So this guy, no matter where I draw that vertical line, I'm only going to hit it one point. So yes, this is a function. Second example here, if I were to give you this graph, we know what circles are. Here's a nice circle. But if I come in with my vertical line test, I'm hitting that circle at 2 points. This is not a function. Okay, so we do want to make sure that we have a function when we're dealing with inverses. So again, just a reminder what a function is. Now I'm going to define that even more. I want to know what a one-to-one function is. Just like its name kind of implies, a one-to-one function means that the x value is assigned to a unique y value. That y value won't be assigned to any other x's. Okay? So each x is assigned to a unique y value. In other words, no repeats. We're not repeating x's because then it's not a function, and now we're not repeating y's, and that means it's a one-to-one function. To test if something's a one-to-one function, we come in and we're going to use the horizontal line test. The horizontal line test will check for any repeated y values. So let's take a look at an example here. If I come in with this graph, it is a function. It has to be a function before it can be a one-to-one function. So I could ask, is this a function? Well, I'm going to come in with a vertical line test. Every point, yeah, that works. It's a function. So then I want to know, is it a one-to-one function? So then I come in with a horizontal line test, and it only hits at 1 point, so check. This is a one-to-one function. That fact is going to help us out later on when we start finding these inverse functions. It's important for it to be one-to-one. If not, we've got to do a little bit of work to make it happen. Another example here, real fast. We could just come in with our nice, beautiful quadratic function here. So we can come in with a vertical. It's a function. We know that it's a quadratic. But if I come in with a horizontal, I'm hitting at 2 points. This is not a one-to-one function, which means when I go to find its inverse, I'm going to run into a little bit of a snag, but nothing that we can't work around. So the last thing I kind of want to introduce you to right now with our inverses along with our vocabulary is our notation. So functions, you've seen that written as y equals f of x. F of x is how we say the function of x. Plug in x, it spits out y. When we're talking about the inverse, it also has a special notation. And what we're going to call this is y to the negative 1 or f to the negative 1 of x. That negative 1 is what shows that we're talking about an inverse function. So you're going to see that pop up as we move forward. Okay, so now you should be able to check to see if a function's one-to-one. And with that fact, we're going to move forward to our next video.